Welcome to Cambridge House Live. I'm Bridgitte Anderson, and Chris Powell is here with me now. He is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. Welcome.
Thanks for having me here.
Chris, we have talked to Bill Murphy just a little while ago about GATA and about his concerns, and he was explaining the manipulation of the gold market. Talk to me a little bit about why you're involved in GATA and what your role is.
Well, I'm the Secretary and Treasurer. I do our dispatches to our members, a lot of contact with financial journalists around the world, trying to get them to pay attention to the issue. I also maintain our checking account and try to keep us afloat financially so we can, among other things, come to conferences like this one.
You know, I think a lot of people would find it hard to believe that there's manipulation in the gold market. How do you answer those claims?
I'd say it's really a matter of public record and simple history. Central banks used to do it in the open. That's what the gold standard was. The gold standard was the fixing of the gold price and the currencies that were involved in gold standards. Back in the 1960s, the major Western central banks got together in a public scheme of gold reserve distorting known as the London Gold Pool, which was a coordinated distorting by, I think, about a dozen Western central banks to hold the gold price in London at $35 an ounce. This was done in the open. It was a mechanism of rigging the gold market. It collapsed in March 1968 as inflation took off in the United States, and the gold offtake in London really drained the gold reserves of the United States from about 25,000 tons down to the current reported 8,100 tons today. That's all a matter of public record. Central banks have always rigged the gold price. That's what the gold standard was. The difference is now, Bridgitte, they're doing it surreptitiously rather than publicly, because the gold goes a lot farther when you do it surreptitiously.
So what kind of evidence do you have of this?
Well, we have admissions from at least four former Federal Reserve chairmen in the United States, William McChesney Martin, Arthur Burns, Paul Volcker, Alan Greenspan, all official statements or statements in their memoirs. We have the admission of Jelle Zylstra, former Dutch central bank president and president of the Bank for International Settlements. In his memoirs, he wrote that the gold price was rigged at the behest of the United States. But we have a lot of other documents.
You have some there right in front of
you.
Yeah,
one document I think is pretty sensational that we publicized 1 month ago is a secret International Monetary Fund report from 1999. It reported that the IMF staff surveyed the Western central banks in an effort to get them to disclose their gold swaps and gold loans. And the staff report says that the Western central banks absolutely refused to disclose their gold swaps and gold loans because that information was what was called market sensitive, and its disclosure would impair the secret currency market interventions of the Western central banks that were making swaps and loans. This is a public document now. It was a confidential report to the IMF, but it's posted on our internet site.
And it's been there for a month, as you say. Why hasn't it gained any more traction in mainstream media?
Well, you have to understand that the mainstream media is under great influence by not only governments, but by big financial houses that pretty much take their instructions from government and are very vulnerable to government.
Well, I worked for mainstream media for 20 years, and I didn't take any instructions from government, so I think there's something else that maybe is going on here.
Possibly. They're
Why
very
is it
reluctant
that you
to
guys
ask questions. I will be delighted to leave you a copy of this IMF report.
I'd be delighted to look at it.
And encourage you, as I encourage every financial journalist, don't listen to me. Don't believe what I'm saying. Just call up your local central bank and ask them, could I please see your gold swaps and leases and your gold account at the Bank for International Settlements? Could you please explain to me in some detail the purpose of your gold trading?
And these questions, Bill said the same thing too, that these questions have not been asked of the administration.
Yeah, they're very politically incorrect, because once you start asking these questions, Bridgitte, you discover that the level of intervention by Western central banks in the markets is far more extensive than people think. I said at our conference in Washington 4 years ago that there really are no markets anymore. There's only central bank interventions. There's a lot of fine companies at this conference here, and I think a lot of them have pretty good prospects in a free market situation. But where central banks are rigging most markets, when they're rigging the currency markets, the bond markets, the gold market particularly, because the gold market is the determinant of all the other markets, we're not trading on fundamentals. We're trading on the anticipation of central bank action. And if central banks are rigging all the currency markets and all the bond markets and the gold markets, as we've discovered, what can we trade on?
So let's say that the central banks say, okay, you got us. This is what we're doing. What would be the implication of that?
They would very quickly lose their power over the markets, because the markets would realize they're not markets at all, that we are looking at holograms every day when we look at the charts that we're trading about. The government participation in those markets is just overwhelming. That's really a political matter, and it's a secret political matter. And secrecy in politics is not democratic.
And still believing that this is the course of action, and that the central banks admit to this then, and if they stop doing it, where would gold be trading then?
I think gold would instantly be multiples where it is right now, because central banks, the Western central banks, have managed to control the gold price in recent years through the creation of a vast imaginary gold reserve in the world. They've created a fractional reserve gold banking system where all their gold is vastly overpledged. More than one person thinks he owns all this gold that's on deposit with bullion banks that has been backstopped from the central banks. If the world realized that, say, 2/3 of the gold it thinks it owns doesn't exist, is a paper claim against gold that really isn't there, what do you suppose the gold price would be? The Bundesbank in announcing this week that it wanted to get 1/5 of its gold back from the Federal Reserve in New York over the next 7 years, implied that that gold is not available all at once, that it is tied up in various deals, derivatives, the futures and options trading that the Western central banks do through the Bank for International Settlements. The gold is overcommitted. And if people realized how overcommitted the gold was, gold would be seen as much more valuable than it is.
So Chris, why are you fighting this battle?
I got into it just really by accident, but I've stuck with it because I think it's a cosmic fraud. It's a fraud against really everything I believe in. I believe in democracy and limited and transparent government and free markets. The gold price suppression scheme, Bridgitte, is really a mechanism for controlling the value of all capital and labor and goods and services in the world. And I think those valuations ought to be set democratically, openly, transparently in free markets, not by a very few central bankers holding secret meetings to decide what valuations are. To me, it's a very profound offense against humanity.
Do you think you're going to win this one?
I think it will be one. I don't know if I will live to see the day.
What keeps you going then, knowing that it could be a very long fight?
Because I think it's so important. I think it's really the secret knowledge of the universe that suppressing the gold price, currency market intervention, rigging markets. It's really a totalitarian system, in my opinion, and it's good to be fought. I can't imagine anything more important to do than fight it.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak to us, Chris.
Thanks for letting me harangue you.